All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to explore the invisible forces that shape our lives. I'm talking about everything from the subtle pressures we feel at work to the brutal, crushing logic of a prison system.
And we're going to start with a huge question. How do powerful systems actually exert their control over us? Well, the answer is kind of personal and a little unsettling. It turns out they live on our bodies, right on our very skin. To figure this out, we're going to bring together two worlds that couldn't seem more different. On one side, we have an academic study on what it calls the price of pretty, and on the other, this incredible memoir, No Friend But the Mountains, by Behrouz Boochani. And get this, he wrote the entire thing one text message at a time, from inside Mana's prison. So, a corporate office and a detention camp. What on earth could they have in common? Well, it turns out quite a lot, actually. Both are governed by these powerful, often invisible architectures of control. Let's start by digging into the one fundamental thing they absolutely share.
So here's the key idea, the thing that ties it all together. The human body is the main place where power is felt. Think of it like a canvas where the rules get written, or an asset that has to be managed, or the flesh that gets punished. It's always the battleground.
And this is where the two paths really split. How a system thinks about the body changes everything. Is your body a form of capital, something to be invested in, or is it a burden, something that needs to be controlled and maybe even broken? In the world of that sociological study, the body is a source of something they call aesthetic capital. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like a form of currency. Your appearance isn't just about how you look. It's a real asset you can actually cultivate to get advantages in your life. And we're talking about a very real investment. The women in the study talked about spending serious hours and a lot of money on makeup, on their hair, on their clothes. This wasn't just about feeling good. No, it was a conscious, nonstop effort to build up and manage a valuable asset. And then you have this stark contrast. In Mana's prison, the body isn't capital. It is the exact opposite. It's a site of pure suffering, a physical testament to neglect. Here, the body isn't an asset to be polished for gain, it's just a vessel for pain that has to somehow endure. Okay, so let's build on that. Every system has rules, we know that, but it's how those rules are communicated and enforced that really shows you what that system is all about. In professional life, the rules are usually implicit, right? No one hands you a manual that says exactly how to dress, but the study shows there are these really strong, unspoken expectations. In the prison, though, the logic is anything but subtle. It's explicit. In fact, Boochani gives it a name, the kyriarchal system. And this isn't just a random academic term. It's a concept that describes a structure specifically engineered for domination. The entire goal of the system in Manas is to control every little piece of your life, to create suffering, and to just break the human spirit. It's not a set of norms. It is a weapon.
I mean, that really says it all, doesn't it? One system is like a tightrope walk where you're constantly navigating expectations. The other is a straight-up fight for your sense of self against the crushing weight of total domination.
So that brings us to agency. What do people do? How do you respond? Well, whether you're facing those subtle pressures or just overt violence, humans always develop strategies, not just to survive, but to assert their own identity. Now, the strategies themselves are worlds apart, but they come from the exact same human impulse, the need for a little control. In the study, women use what's called strategic self-presentation. They use their appearance to manage how people see them, to build credibility. In the prison, resistance is found in the smallest possible things. Hiding one cigarette becomes a victory. It's a tiny way of saying, you do not own all of me. And playing by the rules of aesthetic capital, well, it has its rewards. The study calls them premiums. The participants said they felt more confident, sure, but they also got treated better by colleagues and got more positive social attention. But here's the catch. That very same system has a dark side. The penalties are just as real. Being stereotyped, being sexualized when you don't want to be, being judged by your peers, or just feeling that constant low-level anxiety that you're not quite measuring up. The capital is conditional, and the market, it's volatile. In the prison, the strategy isn't about getting ahead. It's about pushing back against total and complete despair. Boochani describes how prisoners would create celebrations for literally no reason. And this wasn't just an escape. It was an act of pure defiance. It was a message sent directly to the system, a message that said, even in a place designed to produce suffering, you could still create joy. So, after all that, what do we take away from this? Well, when we put these two worlds right next to each other, we start to see this whole spectrum of control, and we realize it exists pretty much everywhere. On one end of that spectrum, you have the quiet, implicit pressure to conform. And on the other end, you've got the explicit, brutal force of total domination. But in both cases, the target is exactly the same, the human body. And the response is universal, too, a constant, unending fight for the self.
Which leads us to one last question for you to think about. A cage with iron bars is easy to see. But what about the cages that don't have them? Which systems of control in your own world are visible, and which ones have you been taught not to even notice?